coming up on Retiring Well with Michael Reese.
All I'm trying to share with you is you need to know what your safe options are. You need to know where you can get decent interest rates on your money. CDs, paying pretty much nothing these days. Floating rate options, they're paying a little bit better. Educate yourself, learn about these things. All that matters is, and what we're going to find out, all that matters is what does your beneficiary statement say? That rules everything with one exception, and you want to know the exception.
Now, the host of Retiring Well, Michael Reese.
Welcome to the show today. We have 30 minutes of action-packed information specifically designed for you. Retiring Well starts right here, right now.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, where we believe your best is yet to come.
Hi, this week in CFP Talk, we are looking at the difference between CDs and things called floating rate instruments. Now, the reason we're looking at this is, as you know, interest rates are really, really low. In a very low interest rate environment, things like CDs, traditional options for your safe money, they're just not paying what they used to pay. And that has a real negative effect on, how your money works for you. We want to make sure that every part of your portfolio is working as hard as possible for your retirement. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening with CDs in today's environment. Now, as I'm recording this, I went on bankrate.com, and they told me that national average, or maybe even it's the best CDs out there, I'm not 100% certain with Bankrate sometimes, but generally speaking, they're saying a 5-year CD is paying right around 1.5% a year. Now, what does that really mean to you? What does that mean? Well, here's what it means. Let's imagine that you put $100,000 of your savings into a 5-year CD at 1.5%. What that means is every year they're going to pay you $1,500 of interest. So $1,500 is credited to your account. If we do some simple math and ignoring compounding over 5 years, it's not a major issue. But $1,500 a year, you get it for 5 years. They're essentially saying, you let us use your $100,000 for the next 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, we'll give you back maybe $7,500. Now, for a lot of you, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, gosh darn it, it seems all right, but on $100,000 over 5 years, why would I tie my money up for that? I mean, it just doesn't seem to make sense. So how can we do better? What can you do to improve on these numbers? Well, I want to introduce you to something called floating rate instruments. These are normally issued by insurance companies. You could go to an insurance company, get a floating rate, they would call it an annuity, and for 5 years they would tell you, we will pay you not 1.5% a year, we'll pay you 2% a year. Well, that's not very exciting. It's not very, wow, that's super awesome or anything like that. But then they have a little twist. And what they do is, we'll pay you that 2% plus something called LIBOR. LIBOR. That is basically international lending rates. Now, what that means is this. If LIBOR today, as I'm recording this, is about 0.8%. So that means in the first year, these types of instruments, they would pay you 2 plus 0.8. They're going to pay you 2.8% in the first year. What do they do next year? They say, well, we're going to pay you the 2 again, plus whatever LIBOR is next year. So here's the thing. Let's imagine you think interest rates are going to rise. If interest rates rise, that guy rises. That number gets bigger, which means this number gets bigger each year over those 5 years. For the sake of illustration, let's imagine that on average, you get about 3 over the 5-year period. Let's imagine that. Well, on 100,000, the same 100,000, that leads to $3,000 every year. And over 5 years, that leads to $15,000 total. Now, are interest rate movements in the future guaranteed? Of course not. That number could go higher, it could go lower. Hey, are you going to get 2%? You know, it's 2% today when I'm recording this, but those numbers change. It might be higher or lower in the future. All I'm trying to share with you is you need to know what your safe options are. You need to know where you can get decent interest rates on your money. CDs, paying pretty much nothing these days. Floating rate options, they're paying a little bit better. Educate yourself, learn about these things. Folks, if you have any questions about this or anything else we talk about in the show, please feel free to give us a call. The number's right there on the screen.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. Smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right. All right, this week in Ask Banks, we've got a really fun question. So I need to give you a little backstory on this one. So here's the deal. You may not be aware of this. It depends on if you have children or grandchildren that were into this. But, you know, I have 5 children, and they were big into Harry Potter when it was out. And you know what happened is just recently there was I don't know if you know this, but there's another Harry Potter book released. It was kind of a play that they did. J.K. Rowling, the author, was part of it. But, you know, of course, I had to go buy the book for the kids and read it to them and all that kind of stuff. Well, Banks, this was her first experience with Harry Potter. She was so excited. In fact, poor Banks, she had to watch all the movies. We just had to watch all the movies from beginning to end again. We had to read books. Banks is, huge, huge Harry Potter fan. So she, in fact, sometimes when she barks, she'll bark in an English accent because she thinks that's kind of cool, right? I know, it's really funny when you do that. But anyway, the reason I bring this up, this backstory up, is this. We actually had somebody write in and ask Banks a question, and it had to do with, you remember Brexit? Remember how a couple months ago Great Britain voted to leave the European Union, and all the economists are saying, oh my gosh, this is horrible. It's horrible, and there's going to be a recession, and everything's just going to fall apart in Great Britain. That's what they all predicted, and they all said it was going to happen right away. So this viewer, Steve, he wrote in, he said, hey, I heard about all this stuff with Brexit. What's going on? Has the economy failed? How they doing over there in the UK? How's everything going? Well, Banks, I said, she likes Harry Potter. She barks in an English accent now. So I thought maybe Banks, we could ask Banks how it's going. And here's the good news. And by the way, I brought Banks a little present here. She doesn't know it. This is going to be a surprise. But because this is a question about the UK and Brexit, well, I only thought it was appropriate that I bring Banks a copy. Basically, let's bring her the flag of, look at this. It's the Union Jack flag. And we'll give this to Banks, let her play around with that and wear it. So while she answers this question, she can be very English and proper, and we'll we'll answer that question. Here is the amazing thing. Everybody was talking about, all the economists, all the experts, Brexit, horrible for the Great Britain's economy. There's going to be a recession. It's going to be horrible. Doom and gloom will soon commence. Well, it turns out that, as usual, they were wrong. So far, the economy in Great Britain, up, doing better. Everything's actually doing a little better. They've had, quite frankly, zero effects with this Brexit vote. It's had no impact on them really at all. Now, that may change in the future, of course, one way or another. But here's the point this is the real important point in this whole thing. Remember this. When it comes to big events like this, Brexit, when you see the news media cover it left and right, don't get caught up in the hysteria. The news media is just all about delivering content they want you to watch. They're just going to make up stories as they need to. But at the end of the day, it ended up not being much of anything. Don't look at the big hysterical events. Focus on fundamentals. Focus on your long-term investing. Don't worry about all this stuff. It's a distraction. It makes you get scared, do some dumb investing things. Just ignore that stuff. 99% of the time, doesn't matter. Now, obviously, there are times when it does matter, like the 2008 credit crunch and all that. Different scenario. Okay, so Banks, she did the research. Brexit, not a big deal right now. And but at the same time, it looks like she can't wait to get home and watch some more Harry Potter. All right, folks, if you have questions for Banks, just go ahead and send us an email. The email's right there on the screen, and she will answer your questions as they come in. And as always, if you have questions about this or any other topic, by all means, feel free to give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you. Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right. All right, this week we have got a great beneficiary blender to share with you, but here's the thing. This kind of stuff that we're going to talk about happens all the time. I mean, all the time. And especially we see it when you encounter a situation where you have maybe someone's been divorced, maybe it's a second marriage, but we even see it in first marriages when you have accounts that have been around a long time. Now, what's really happening here is this. A lot of times people just like you don't clearly understand the priority in which accounts are transferred when you die. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you think, well, I'll just change my will or I'll just change my trust and that's going to take care of everything. Well, my friends, not so fast. I've got a great article to share with you about why that's not necessarily true. All right, the title of this article says, A Spouse's Right to Life Insurance Money. Now, in this article, they are specifically talking about life insurance death benefits. But I want to share something with you. Life insurance, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, 457s, all those accounts, annuities, you name a beneficiary in that account. And that beneficiary designation is top of the line. It rules. It doesn't matter what your will says. It doesn't matter what your trust says. It doesn't matter what you verbally told people or what you've written down. None of that matters. All that matters is, and what we're going to find out, all that matters is what does your beneficiary statement say? That rules everything with one exception, and you want to know the exception. So here the article starts out. I just want to read a little bit of this, not too much. It says, much to your surprise, you find out that someone else is the beneficiary of your spouse's life insurance policy. So in other words, your husband dies or your wife dies, and you're not the beneficiary. I mean, don't you have an automatic right to your spouse's life insurance or 401k or IRA or annuity? Don't you have an automatic right as a spouse? That's what they say. Not so fast. What they say here is, and this is very, very true, they say that you can exclude a spouse. Whoops, got to turn one more page. It says, you can leave the entire death benefit to someone else. The contract owner determines where the money goes. So, or the contract owner of the life insurance, contract owner of the annuity, or the account holder of a 401k or an IRA. Now, what happened is there have been a number of lawsuits about this. Because they gave an example here. They say sometimes an ex-spouse is left on an old life insurance policy. In other words, here's what happens. Warren Hillman, in this example, had a life insurance policy at work. It was worth $124,000. He died at the age of 66, but the beneficiary on that policy was not his wife, Jacqueline Hillman. So what happened was he used to be married to someone named Judy. Judy was the beneficiary on that policy. He died. He never changed beneficiaries. Now his will, his trust, everything said, no, my new wife Jackie gets everything. Who'd the insurance money pay out? Where his will and trust said the money should go, or what the beneficiary said? They paid it out to the beneficiary. Well, they paid it out to Judy. Well, Jackie, not happy, sues. And then lawsuit. Eventually it goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0. 9-0. They don't rule 9-0 on anything. And they said 9-0, money goes to the beneficiary. You know what? There's been another case called Kennedy versus DuPont. exact same circumstance, except this was a 401k. And again, they ruled 9-0, it goes to the beneficiary. How about that? So here's the thing you want to know. Community property states are a little different. There are some different rules there, and there are 9 community property states in this country. So if you live there, you need to know what those rules are. But generally speaking, check your beneficiary designations. Folks, if you have questions about this or anything else we talk about on the show, please feel free to give us a call. One of the biggest mistakes we see people making all the time when they come to our office is they don't have a clearly defined retirement plan. And the reason's pretty simple. It's pretty rare that someone like yourself has the opportunity to sit down with an independent financial advisor who truly specializes in retirement planning. Someone that makes sure that you can get through retirement safely and securely. Well, if you don't have a clearly defined retirement plan and you want one, well, all you have to do is give us a call. We have a special offer for the first 5 people that call. As long as you have at least $250,000 saved for your retirement, we will provide for you, free of charge, no obligation, a complete retirement review. In this review, we're going to help you take a look at your investments and the risk you're taking, the fees you pay in your portfolio, maybe even some tax planning. Will help you have an integrated, clearly defined retirement plan. Free, no obligation, be one of the first 5 callers. Make sure you call now. We'll see you when you stop in.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right.
Welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with Mike. My name's James Curry. I'm one of the financial advisors here at Centennial Wealth Advisory. We've got some great questions for you this week, Mike, from viewers. Are you ready?
I'm ready for it. Let's
right.
line them up.
First one we have is from Carolyn in Georgetown. She writes, I'm retiring in a few weeks, and I'm thinking of cashing out my old life insurance policies. My house is paid off, the kids are gone, and I don't see any need for coverage anymore. Is there anything I'm missing here?
Wow. Is that a question we get all the time or what?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's common, I think, out there. The whole mindset has traditionally been, well, I get life insurance when I'm younger, because maybe I've got a mortgage to pay off and I want to take care of that if I die, or maybe I have children that I want to make sure that they're financially okay. But you get to the point of retirement and you're thinking, well, I don't have that anymore, but I've got enough money. Right? I don't need the death benefit really anymore. Why am I still paying premiums? Why not just get rid of this stuff, right? So that's a common question. And what I would tell you, Carolyn, I would tell Carolyn, and by the way, any of you who are watching this, I'm going to tell you the exact same thing. When it comes to retirement, I mean, you just have to recognize that life insurance might be one of the best assets you have. I mean, when we talk to people, I can think of several reasons why you want to have life insurance in retirement. So, first of all, think about it this way. If you're married and you have retirement plans, What do we know about those IRAs, James?
They're a big tax liability, the biggest
Yeah.
for most of our clients.
Huge tax liabilities, right? But so if let's say a husband dies and leaves a big IRA to his wife, that's a huge taxable account. But if he also has life insurance, what can he do? He can use that money to maybe pay for a Roth conversion, and next thing you know, that big taxable account is a big tax-free account. That's a lot better, right? And the other thing it does is just provide options. We have a lot of people these days where they're in second marriages or third marriages or fourth marriages. and the thing is that if they have life insurance, a lot of times you have his kids, her kids, their kids. Life insurance makes it easier to kind of spread out the assets after someone dies. If you think about it this way, if you are a life insurance company, you want people cashing out those policies when they retire, because all you have to do as a company is pay out the cash value. Of course, what don't you want them to do? You don't want them to hold it all the way till you die, because then you got to pay out the big death benefit. So, folks, think about it. The life insurance company's not on your side here. They want you to cash it out. Don't do that. Get the full value of that death benefit. Hang on to that life insurance, and I know your beneficiaries will be glad you did.
We have our next question is from Frank in San Marcos. He writes, I keep hearing people talk about how IRAs are tax time bombs. What are they talking about?
Wow, we just talked a little bit about that, didn't we? They are, I'll tell you, the thing that happens, and you know this because you hear me, this is one of my, get on a pulpit and preach about topics, right? These IRAs are fantastic tools. And by the way, 401k, 403b, they all fall in the same category, of course. Fantastic tools while you're working. You get to put the money in, tax deductible, money grows tax deferred, but when do you pay all the taxes?
When you take it out.
Yeah, right there at the end, right? And usually when you're retired, or when you're in your 70s and you don't have a choice. If you take a look at these huge assets, I mean, if you have $1 million in an IRA, that's $1 million that you're going to pay income tax on at some point. That's a huge tax liability. And it's a bomb because the minute you're 70 and 70 and a half, you got to start paying those taxes whether you want to or not. And you pay more and more and more and more every single year. Then you die, you leave money to your beneficiaries, and then they pay a bunch of taxes. It is a nightmare. IRS works out really well for them. What about you and me, though? Not so great. So you really want to pay attention to the taxes in those IRAs. You want to have a plan. You want to have a plan to help manage the taxation on those IRAs over your retirement years.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. That was some great information this week. And for anyone watching, please feel free to call the office or visit the website, and we can answer your questions next week.
Thanks, everyone, for watching the show today. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to call our office or visit our website. And remember, you only retire once, so let's get it right the first time. We'll see you next week.